Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much for joining me on my webinar today. And so my name is Ruth Schwarzenbock. I am the Director of Education and Learning Strategies at VMP eLearning. And one of my main tasks here is to make sure that people actually learn from your courses. And one of the most important topics hereby is to understand the theories behind how adults learn, or the principles behind how adults learn, which is what I want to talk about today. When I start saying things like that, I usually get the answer, well, but doesn't everyone learn differently? Like some people learn better from reading, some better from hearing, and so on, which is true, but still you need to apply principles behind the different types of learning so people actually learn. So it's two different things, the learning types and the theories behind learning. So yeah, let's just dive straight in. I would like to invite you during this webinar, or actually start right now, to be a bit more involved. Think about either a course that you're currently producing or attending or thinking about to create for whatever situation. And throughout the whole course, like every principle we talk about, yeah, maybe think about what does it mean for my course, or how could I apply this to that specific course that I'm thinking about or that I'm attending at the moment. Have we thought about the principle, or can I now, with knowing about this, think about how we could improve this course maybe? All right, so let's get started. So the first important principle is the principle of previous experience. We need to be aware of the fact that adults bring in a lot of experience when they learn. It's not like kids. For kids, everything is new, which is why they can be at school and just like listen to everything. Whereas when you start with adults and they start a course and they need to start from zero, they will be very soon bored out or think the course is not relevant for them because they already know everything. So we need to take into consideration that everyone has their own experiences and already brings them into the course. That also makes it a bit harder for us to tailor the course to everyone because everyone brings in different experiences. What we can do about that, I'll talk in a bit. We just go through the principles first. Second one is the problem-centric learning. People who learn mostly like for the job, while they're already on a job or to prepare to take on a job, they don't want to focus too much on like all the stuff you may need to know one day, but they want to know how to solve a specific problem, which is why we need to base our course around these issues that you will have to solve throughout your throughout your workday, or through your traineeship or whatever the course is for, and not just accumulate information that might not be relevant later. Principle number 3 is the principle of active learning. Is we don't just want to sit there and listen, which is why I'm asking you to at least bring in your own experiences, your own courses, so you can apply it immediately. Very important is also the social aspect in this situation. So to discuss your thoughts with others, to discuss your experience with others. And this keeps your brain active, makes your brain think about it more. And that means it immediately goes into your long-term memory because your brain thinks it is more important. Principle number 4 is the principle of relevance. We need to know why we are learning something. that also goes along with the first one, the one of the previous experience. If I think, why am I sitting here? I already know all this, and still I have to go through all these PowerPoint slides. Then maybe that is not the right course for you, or you are not willing to learn. However, when you know that, for example, later there will be practical advice that you can take into your own company to apply, or it helps you to understand how you can make courses better, you are more willing to actually pay attention because you know why this is relevant. Principle number 5 is the principle of emotional connection. Our body and our brain remembers things in connection with emotions. And you might experience that yourself, like whenever, when something evokes a certain emotion, you feel yourself remembered of a similar situation. And that helps the brain connect these situations with each other, which helps actually to store the information, to store whatever you've just learned, or that memory. Right, next one is the principle of alignment, which means that things you learn need to make sense in the context that you learn it, in the frame, like why you learn it. You need to understand, this is actually relevant for my everyday work life. And this is actually something, when I've done the course, that will help me in what I'm doing every day. Principle number 7 is the principle of self-learning. So everyone has a different speed of learning, different, different order, what they learn better when. Do I need the information beforehand, then I can apply it? Or do I want to dive straight in and experience myself? Everyone learns differently, and you learn more. And also studies have shown that people are more willing to learn if they can decide themselves when to learn what to learn first. And if there's content that they can skip, for example, they are less likely to skip it, even if they know it already, just because it's there, but they have the opportunity to skip it if they want. And principle number 8 sounds simple, but still important and often forgotten. Learning needs to be fun. If you don't enjoy your learning process, then you just won't learn much. All right, so we've heard a lot about these principles now, but what does that mean? And also, how can we apply these principles to our courses? So again, think about the example you've chosen at the beginning of this webinar, whether it's a course that you're creating or taking part on, or that you've had and thought that was horrible, or that you want to create for the future. And for every principle that we go through, think about my ideas, and before I give you any ideas or answers, think about, well, what would I do? All right, so how can we apply these principles? We had the principle of previous experience. That meant we need to tie the content with our everyday experience and also with previous experience we've had. That also means we need a wide range of instructional design models and theories to appeal to varied experience levels and backgrounds. So everyone is different. Some people are used to work with their hands. Some people are used to work with computers a lot. They will find everything a lot easier. So we need to make sure that we have a course design that applies to everyone and everyone feels welcome in this course. So what can we do? How can we do that? We can, of course, survey our audience. Or if you work in a company and create courses for your employees or for your colleagues, you probably already know who comes in with what experience, or in which fields, in which departments are people working. Also use your audience's skills. So for those people, you know, or they're like, they know how to do internet and computers, whatever, and you apply a different design than for those who actually don't work with computers so much and might be scared of them, or might be scared of using online stuff. So it is important that you have these designs ready. And you can also put in like these skip buttons. So for those who already have certain experience and don't need to learn something, they can just skip this bit and go to the next bit, so you keep actually their attention up. So what was the second one? Second principle was the principle of problem-centric learning. That means the presentation of information is secondary. We need the problem that needs to be solved, and not just dump information on people and content. And also experience is the root of all e-learning activities. You need to experience something to really learn it, or to really know what to do in a specific situation. Also, we need to make sure that the information is stored in the long-term memory and not just can be repeated, let's say, the day after the course, but also like the next week, the next month, and the next year, hopefully. So how can we do that? Think about your course. How could you present a problem that people have to work around? Well, we can create an experience rather than dumping information, which means get rid of PowerPoint slides, but present scenarios, create projects that people actually have to go through, that people have to take part of, and give them real problems that they will face or might face during the work life that they have to solve in the course. And that gives them a lot of opportunity to learn from mistakes, or have like a trial and error involved, and that helps them a lot more, because they will remember from what they did wrong in the course. They know how not to solve the issue in real life, but what they actually learned, and can be like have a more positive and more effective approach in their everyday work life. And also these activities should allow the learners to delve into specific tasks. So for an example, yes, if we have a work environment and you have to build something, put something together, put the doors into the car, for example, really give your learners the situation in a video or an animation, and they have to do the actual movement, like take the door, put them in the right position, like use all the screws that you need to use later as well. And if they do it in the wrong order, they can try again and again, and that will help them later to actually do the task in reality a lot easier. All right, what was the next principle? The principle of active learning. Principle of active learning means different things. We need an active and focused brain, so we can actually memorize the things that we go through, that we learn, that we memorize better. And your brain then classifies the content as relevant, so it will pay more attention, it will store it longer. Also, learning needs to be a social experience. Everything that is connected with being socially interactive leads to higher learning outcomes. Now you're going to say, how can we do that with online learning, e-learning? Well, think about what could you do with your course. First of all, immerse learners. They are like thrown into a situation and have to handle it. That already means they're active, because the brain needs to actively think, how do I get out of this? But also, yes, so there's basically, you make your audience think first. And then later you can still provide information so they know, okay, I did this right, or at the end I got it right, like through feedback and everything. But first, make them actively think. And like these days with online learning, we also have a lot of online collaboration tools. So you can use social media, and you can use activities that encourage to use LinkedIn, Google+, and so on. So people, if they don't see each other face to face, they can work together in a team still. So what could that be, or what could that mean for your course? Let's say you want to increase product knowledge or team building skills or teamwork skills, or things like that. You could have one of your departments maybe, yes, give them the project to create a short commercial film or whatever about their department, which means they have to learn about their department. What are actually the tasks of the department? What are the laws behind the department? Like what are the compliance rules? They need to learn about the products. They need to learn about all these kind of things, and without actually being aware of the fact that they're learning. They're building this short video. You will increase the team working skills, and they have to work together, and still it's an online learning project. All right, principle number 4 was the principle of relevance. It is pretty clear, still it is often forgotten when courses are designed. We need to make sure that without the relevance for the everyday life, people lose the motivation. They will just think about, why am I doing this all the time? And that will be in their mind, and there's like no space for new information. So we need to make it matter. Well, how can you make your course matter? I think that's one of the biggest questions when designing an online course. So what can we do? Think about the course you might have in mind. So embed your activities about everyday scenarios. Like, again, we've had scenarios earlier, but make sure they're everyday scenarios that people really come across in their everyday work life. And also use visuals that are used in the workplace. So people see, like, they sit in a course and go like, oh, I've seen this in my office or in the laboratory, and I actually was wondering what it means. So they know, okay, this is actually a real thing. I need to learn about this. And you can also have short demonstrations about why something is relevant. For example, in your laboratory, someone doesn't know what the sign means and ignores it, and there are some outcomes, whatever, you release some viruses that should not be released, which would not be good. So if people have demonstrated that, they're like, okay, I should better learn it, make sure this doesn't happen. And, or yes, use this not as a demonstration, but as a feedback. So people are actually asked to do some tasks in the online course, and if they get it wrong, they will get this outcome as a feedback. They will remember that for a long time. And if possible, try to include virtual reality. That makes everything a lot more real. You can have the environment of your workplace or whatever online, and people act in their natural environment, basically. Yes, you can't make it more relevant than that, I guess. Okay, next one. No, also, sorry, forgot, you can use mobile learning for immediate application. This means that people can actually do short courses on their mobile phone, on their tablets or whatever, while working on something, do a quick exercise and then immediately apply it. And that's also like very high relevance. Okay. Next one, emotional connection. We've talked about what that means. So the content will be connected to previous experiences. And that means also that, yes, synapses connect, the brain builds up a lot more memories and connects these memories. And so the ties to existing experiences make it easier to embed the content in the structure that you already have set up in your brain. Now, how do we do that? Sometimes it's easy. You create, if you have scenarios, for example, so videos or animations, you create stories that evoke certain emotions. There's some situations that almost everyone has been through already, or if you have it work focused, for example, instead of a short video clip where you observe something, a situation, address your audience. Let's say it is a course for how to handle an upset customer in your shop. Instead of having the situation between two people and you watch it, if you have the client directly shouting at you, you will have, like, you will be more involved, emotionally involved, than just watching this situation. And you might be reminded of a situation where you have been in this situation and you didn't know how to handle it. So you're already a lot more involved in this whole learning process. If you have a different situation, you can also simply use characters that people relate to, which is the description of this person. Like, let's say you have a course about leadership and you have different styles of leading or working in groups, then there will be the different characters and every one of your audience will be connecting to one of them. So you have them involved. And very important, especially for emotional connection, is to give room for discussion, because as soon as it comes to emotions, there's usually, for some people, yes, a lot of need to talk. And this again, we can make this happen in online learning as well, whether you have a blended learning solution where people can come together in groups and talk about things, or you have the group chat that can be a regular thing, or just whenever someone wants to send a message, or you can have video chats, you can have forums. There's a lot of ways you can actually get the social discussions in your online learning course. Right. Next principle is the principle of alignment. So we said everything needs to make sense to learners. We need to know why we are learning something and what the outcomes are, the benefits at the end. So there needs to be a valid reason behind every course or module for this specific learner, not just for you. So how can we get that? We can simply explain the reason for a certain course or assessment beforehand. Simply saying, this course will help you to understand our products better, or this exercise will lead to higher team leading skills. Whatever your course is about, you don't have to explain every step and every principle behind it, but you need to give them the benefits of taking this course. Yes, so clearly define the benefits behind the course. And next principle is principle of self-learning, also self-guided learning, we can say. So we need to find a way to have a minimum of instruction and a maximum of autonomy. Still, we don't want our audience to get lost. And we need a purpose of the course or activity, so people actually want to learn or want to take that exercise. And how do we get there? Especially like the first one sounds very tricky. Maximum of autonomy, but people should still learn. So we need to bring across clearly that there is support, whether you have, like, let's say you have your own character in your course that you can tick or click and ask for help and you'll get support. Whether you have clear instructions and who can skip which exercise, or whether it's just an open course and you say, you can always come here for questions, otherwise You make your own rules, you make your own order, whatever works best for your audience, what you feel like. And again, you normally know your audience best. How secure do they feel in an online environment, and how much support would they need? If you're not sure about that, then it is mostly important that everyone knows where to get support from, and that it's easily accessible, but that it's not forced on the people. And then again, simulations, scenarios, and games. That gives the audience the opportunity to explore themselves. Let's say you have a game that people can go through, and some people just take longer and can explore more because they want to, or they feel they have to. Some can just go straight through, and they're like, okay, done. This is for me, and I learned for myself. And those who want to get more background information, need to do more, can find their own way, longer way through the game. And yes, always, again, provide the purpose and goals of content and activities, because that might lead to, like, some people going more slowly through an exercise and more mindful, because it's not for the goal that they think it is, but it is for something different. Let's say, oh yeah, you have a course for how to drive a truck through wet roads or whatever, and people think it's like, oh, okay, I need to make as little mistakes as possible to get through that exercise. They might take that exercise differently than when you actually say there are a lot of tricky situations in there, and this is to practice how to get out of this situation. Then they might maybe pay less attention, but try to get caught in these tricky situations so they can actually practice how to get out of this. All right. And as I've said, it is important to have fun while learning. So that means social experience normally makes everything more fun, like being in touch with other people. So again, learning is a social process. Make it somehow social. How we present a course is crucial, and I don't only talk about content here, it's about the whole experience, like how is the design of your learning management system or your website or whatever? Is it easy to use? Do people like to go on that site, or is it already stress for them just to log in because they find it complicated? So you need to think about that from the very first step on. And yes, so design and user friendliness play a big part, not only the content. So what to do there? Give room for social contact. We've talked about that before. Make sure that activities are engaging. They create entertainment and fun. And you can do that, for example, through having small competitions or assigning awards to people who have done something really well, to pack dry content into a game. And I'm not talking crossword puzzles, but like, again, the experience-based games that we talked about before. And yes, things like that. And most important thing is make it fun, but of course not ridiculous. Especially adult learners want to be taken seriously, and they don't want to think, okay, so this is basically a video game. Do people think I can't learn properly or whatever, or they don't feel like they're learning when they're not sitting in front of a paper and like taking notes. So make sure you get the balance there. And again, that your learners can see the benefits and where they go later, or what they can take out of this course. Okay, so that was an overview quick overview with hopefully some ideas. Now, I hope when you think back and think about the course you had in mind at the beginning, maybe, it gives you some ideas on, yes, what you could do differently, or what you've already done, what you think, okay, this is exactly what we have done, maybe even without knowing about the principles, or what you think you could do differently, or what course you would expect yourself if you're more on the side of, I'm taking online courses, what do I expect and what do I look for when I go out and take a course. Now I would like to know, that was a lot from my side, if there are any questions from your side in, yes, regards to principles, application of these principles. Let's see. And yes, so well, you can think about whether you have questions. I would like to maybe quickly go back to something I mentioned at the beginning. When I said people often think about the 4 different learning types when it comes to how do adults learn. And I said they are 2 different things, types of learning and principles of learning. I hope this is something that came across during this webinar. And just from my experience, what I'd like to share with you is whenever I say, or people talk about the 4 different learning types, and it comes to e-learning and engaging e-learning with video animation and so on, people often go like, yeah, but what about the people who learn best from reading? And I go like, yes, good question. There are these people who learn best from reading. That is actually the lowest percentage from the people still, but they want to learn as well. Make sure you don't confuse memorizing with learning in this situation. So often when we think about learning, we think about school and we sat there and then we listened to a lot of stuff and then we had to do homework and had our exams from time to time. And there's some people who are like, yes, I need to read this, otherwise I won't be able to answer the questions later. But be aware that we are in different situations now. We learn for our work, for our job. We really learn for life, what we often wish at school. So in this situation, it is very important to have different approaches. And there is a reason why surgeons don't just read a book and then go and cut people open and do something to the heart, but they practice. There is a reason why, yeah, people don't just read a book and then go build a car, because there's a lot more to understand there. And it is what you, I guess, want out of your people. If they do a course, you would want them to be able to apply things immediately and not just be able to tell you how things should actually work. Let's say you have an emergency and everyone needs to react immediately and correctly. It doesn't help if you ask someone, do you know what to do? And these people go like, yes, it was in paragraph one on page 10 of this booklet, and it says we need to do this, this, and this, and this. There can be a lot of people be dead by then. So it is more important that we transfer the knowledge immediately into the brain, or the muscular brain, and so things can be applied immediately. And for those who actually like or prefer to have something they can read, you can always still upload a PDF so they can refer to it later. Okay, thank you. I'm not sure if we got any questions. I don't think so. And yes, so I'd like to thank you for joining us today. Should you have any questions at a later point, please, yes, contact me either on ruth@vmp.com.au or also find me on LinkedIn. And I'm happy to connect, happy to talk. Also, you got my phone number here, just in case. Yes, and I'm happy to talk to you. And yes, thank you very much.